Most real estate agents think success is about closing deals. But what if it's actually about starting the right conversations? Leases versus sales, scaling up, nailing your cold calls. These aren't just tactics, they're turning points. The difference between struggling and thriving, knowing when to pivot, how to make your message stick, and what to say so people actually take action. Today I'm tackling the questions that separate the pros from the amateurs. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real answers that actually move the needle. Let's get into it.
What is your thought on leases? I'm a real estate agent. Been in the business for 9 months and I'm pretty much 100% leases. At what point would it be good to transition from leases to buying, selling in your experience?
Well, first things first, I'm a strong believer, specifically when you're getting started in the business, that doing leases, yes, I understand that they're not the same in terms of the revenue that you're bringing into your business, because the commission on a lease slash rental is a lot lower than if you help somebody buy, sell, or invest. But when you're getting started, it is a fantastic way to get into the habit of meeting with people, showing them properties. If you're helping the tenant, but if you're helping the landlord, you're going to be listing the properties. Just getting into the habit of helping people with the paperwork, asking people if this is a property that they can see themselves live in for a while. Yes, they're renting, but the process is very, very similar. Now, if you're someone in the business for 5, 7, 8 years and you're still getting people inquiring about rentals, don't say no. What I've been doing for the last, I would say, about 14 to 15 years, once I made the transition of really helping more buyers, sellers, and investors, is even when I get inquiries for rentals, I just give that out to a team member. And you might not be on a team. That's okay. You can give that to someone else in your office, someone in your geographical area. You can get a referral fee. Yes, I understand the referral fee is not going to be that much, but what is more important, and stick with me here, what's more important is for your client base, your network, everybody on your social media, to start thinking of you as the resource when it comes to all things real estate. Even if it comes down to needing an electrician, I want them to reach out to you. I want you to be the Google, and for my older listeners and viewers, the yellow pages for everyone in your network. So they need a landscaper. They need someone to help them with the snow removal, cleaning out the gutters, doing the roof. I want them to reach out to you. Hence why, doesn't matter where you are in your business, I want you to take in the lead of a rental slash lease, and then you can decide to refer it out. At the start, when do you make the transition? Well, you should be transitioning as we speak. Just because you're doing rentals right now doesn't mean that that's all you have to do. In fact, what you want to make sure that you do is do the other systems I speak about, which is CRM, social media, events, and making phone calls, letting people know that you do more than just rentals. Really quick story. I had a girl on my team here based out of Toronto, Ontario. She currently is probably in the top 10 when it comes to pre-construction condos in the city of Toronto. That's an amazing and huge feat. But don't let that just go over your head, guys and gals. When I say she's in the top 10 in Toronto, Toronto's the biggest real estate board in North America. She started off for the first 2 years doing 100 to 200 leases per year. But she was very strategic about it. What she did is make sure that she databased everyone. Not all those 200 to 300 people that she helped with leases turned into buyers, but a lot of them did. Why? Because she serviced them really well. And then when it was time for her to introduce another type of property, i.e. a pre-construction, the guys and gals that were happy with her service decided, hey, I'll move into this. I'll think about investing into this. And so do not discount rentals and leases, especially when you're getting started. What's next, Wade?
Once you book the financial checkup appointment, how does that meeting go?
Well, first things first, when you book the appointment, just know that you want to do everything possible, i.e. send email reminders, you want to send a phone, a text. If you have the time, make a phone call within about 24 hours of the appointment, because you might have booked it a week in advance, and the prospect might have forgotten. Think about how many times you forgot that you had a dentist appointment, right? If it wasn't for that quick text message that your appointment's coming up in 2 days or 24 hours, you might not have showed up. And so it's very important to do everything you possibly can to get the person to the appointment. Now understand, it's just the way that the cookie crumbles in sales, which is that 50% of people might not show up. And now I hear this all the time. Well, what's the use of booking them? Well, what else are you gonna fucking do? Like, if you're not actually booking appointments in the hopes of people showing up, sitting back and just waiting and doing nothing and hoping that somebody calls you and says, come list me or help me buy a property is probably not a good strategy. Because when there's a market downturn, and at the time of this recording, real estate's not the sexiest thing in the world. So you have to be proactive to book those appointments. In terms of how the actual appointment goes, it's really fact-finding. It's a discovery call. You're trying to find out the needs/wants of the person on the other line. Now, we generally do this on Google Meet so we can make that connection. There's nothing wrong with just doing it over the phone. If the person can't connect online, there's nothing wrong with doing it in person. I mean, that being the highest type of an appointment. But what we're doing is asking a lot of questions. And the questions all start with what, where, when, how, and most importantly, why. Because the why gives us the motivation of why somebody might be thinking about selling, investing, or buying a property. And so as they're speaking, I'm taking a lot of notes, right? Imagine you went into a doctor's appointment and the doctor never took any notes, and at the end of the appointment, he's like, can you just go over that all again with me? I'm not sure how much trust you're gonna have with that physician. And so just like a doctor or a lawyer or an insurance broker or financial advisor, what you're doing is finding out the needs and wants by asking questions, taking detailed notes, and then making suggestions. And I emphasize that term, making suggestions. It's not your money. You can't decide what somebody should do. All you could do is make some suggestions based on some of their needs and wants with what type of products you might have. And in real estate, you have income properties, you have pre-construction, you have land development when you're speaking to an investor. And then let the prospect make a quality informed decision themselves. This is not the time you start to try to convince people to buy a certain type of property. That's not going to go over well. And I've learned that the hard way being in sales for 32 years. You might convince somebody, okay? The problem with that is, yes, they might even buy, but they're not going to want to introduce you to their friends, colleagues, and neighbors in the future because they're gonna feel like one was put on over them, right? And so what you wanna do is continue to ask a lot of questions, make the suggestions, and then don't forget this most important part. At the end, you ask. So out of all these suggestions I made, Clyde, the prospect, what is one of them that might pique your interest, if any? Then shut up, let them speak, and then they'll generally say, well, you know what, I'm kind of leaning towards this type of investment because of the fact that it just seems more passive. I like this type of investment because there's a higher return on my investment. I like this one because I want to be involved in the managing of the tenant and toilets. And then your job is to say, great, here's the next steps. This is where a lot of people miss out, okay? Like agents that I hear, because in my coaching academy, I have agents do these financial checkup from the neck ups, and then I have them send them to me so I can hear and really coach hands-on to help them convert more of those financial checkup from the neck ups. And what I hear a lot is, or let me rephrase that, what I don't hear a lot is the next steps, which is, Clyde, fantastic, you're looking into an income property that has a couple of units in it, fantastic, let's just make sure that we get to an independent mortgage broker / loan officer so he or she can give us an idea. As rates go up and down, let's just lock in a rate. It saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing so. It doesn't cost us anything up front to do it. Side note, what that's doing for the client is locking in an interest rate, but you also now know what they're qualified for. You can't help someone in real estate without knowing kind of their budget. And so you're going to hold their hand through the process of the next step, which is finding out the budget, and then voila, you're going to go shopping for properties. Wait, what's next?
When you first started out and your team wasn't as big as now, what helped you scale to where you're at now?
Well, first and foremost, I worked a lot of hours, and I'm not here to sell you hustle porn, meaning I don't want you to think that you need to work 24 hours a day and 8 days a week. What I just did is I have big dreams and big goals, and so I worked a lot at the start. I did everything that I possibly could. I time blocked my day to make sure that the one thing that never got missed was lead generation and prospecting. Okay? I need you to understand this, that you don't need to be really good at majority of things in sales, i.e. even doing content. You don't need to be good. You just need to get yourself out there. You don't need to be really good at doing paperwork. You don't need to be good at doing showings even. What you need to be good at is following up. You need to meet many people and then start following up with them in a very classy way, not in a sleazy way. Finding out when they're ready, making sure that you're making those notes so you consistently follow up. It's what I did until I ran out of time. What started to happen, and this is where the scaling of me happened, I would do all the stuff from meeting people all the way up to helping them buy, sell, and invest, like actually closing the deal and everything in between. As a loan officer, as a mortgage broker, as a real estate agent, you have a lot of stuff to do in between. And so what I started to do is pick myself out of some of those tasks. And the first few tasks I put myself out of was, number one, was doing the paperwork. I don't like it. There's nothing about, pushing papers that I like. Not to say that that's not, something that you shouldn't do or at the start you have to do it at times. It's just, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at organization and paperwork. So I made sure that was the first hire I had, which was an executive assistant. The second one was showings. I started to run out of time of getting out and showing people, and then there's multiple times, I didn't make this decision based on a small sample size of one, but multiple times I had people who needed to see properties at the same time on the same day on the weekend. But I was busy doing an open house. I was busy doing other showings with other people, or maybe even an offer, which is the highest revenue activity that we can do as real estate agents. And so I then hired a buyer agent. Now that buyer agent, even though his name was his title was a buyer agent, also helped me with the open houses, also helped me do some stuff in and around the listing. Back in the days, I've been doing this for almost 21 years now. We didn't have a lot of signing companies and putting up lock boxes and all that kind of stuff. So I had my buyer agent help with that. He was my first hire in terms of an agent. Was always paid on the deal. So when the deal got done, so it was based on performance, because hey, you're gonna eat when I eat, right? And so that was my second hire. That's how I started to scale myself out. Then I started to build up my team of agents who were doing more deals. I then focused primarily on, and this probably happened about a decade ago, I primarily focused on just meeting people, bringing in the groceries, so to speak, and then I allowed everyone else to do the cooking, and that's kind of where I'm at currently in my business of real estate. With my business in my coaching academy, I'm doing it kind of all over again. Because I learned from the first business, I hired someone right away to help with a lot of stuff in between, but I'm doing majority of the sales and then the servicing of the client when it comes to my coaching academy. Next way.
How do you introduce yourself when you cold call?
Well, I don't do a lot of cold calling, and so I do warm calling. You guys have seen a lot of my content on social media. You see me making a lot of phone calls. I'm in the business, booking appointments, but I don't do a lot of cold calling. How I introduce myself is quite simply, I say the person's name first. So whoever I'm calling, don't be silly enough to call somebody and you don't know their fucking name. When you call somebody, I want to try to build rapport right off the bat. Because if I build rapport right off the bat, that doesn't mean I'm always going to have success in terms of booking an appointment or getting to the next step, whatever it may be. But I'm stacking the cards in my favor. And the way that I build rapport right off the bat is by saying the person's name in a very pleasant, what I like to think, positive and energetic way. So if I'm calling Way, I'm going to say, Way, how you doing? It's Jazz. And then I shut up and I wait. There's a little bit of awkward silence there that you need to be comfortable with, or at least get comfortable with. And I see what the person either says or doesn't say. Sometimes it's just dead air. But I wait. And most of the time what happens, the client or the prospect, because I'm warm calling, they'll say, Jazz, oh my God, nice to hear from you. Now, some people say it all the time. But what also happens is, sorry, who's this? Jazz who? Oh, Jazz from REC Canada. And then I try to jog their memory. This is why it's so important to have so many notes in your CRM, right? Because you could have the notes of where you met them, what day it was, like what was the weather that day, do you have their dog's name? Like I know so many pet lovers. You might not say it right off the bat in terms of asking about the dog Skippy, but what if in the conversation you said, hey, by the way, like how's Skippy? Do you know how good that's going to make the other person on the other line feel? Is it going to work all the time? No. Okay? This is all about stacking the cards in your favor. So what I would do in terms of introducing myself is jog the memory of the person if you don't know them. If you're cold calling, if I were to cold call someone, I'm probably going to start completely differently than everyone else. Which the normal person, when they're cold calling, says, hi, is this Clyde? Right off the bat, the person knows like, there's a good chance that this is a cold call. Hi, is this Clyde? It's Jazz calling from REC Canada. I'm giving you a call, and then they just speed up and speak quickly. What I would say, if you put me on a cold call right now, I'm going to say, Clyde, I'm always going to start it with that. Let him say, yeah, who's this? Hey, this is actually a cold call. I know you don't like cold calls because I friggin' hate them, but I actually think this call might make you a lot of money. You got 32 seconds for me. And then I'm going to shut up. And if they say no, great. I'm going to move to the next person. If they say yes, boom, I got my shot for 32 seconds. Speed up your conversation. Try to book an appointment. All right? That's how I would do it. What's next, Wade?
What would be a good call to action if I shouldn't say, call me?
Look, I think this question is probably coming from the perspective of some of my pieces of content. I mentioned when you're doing content, social media, not to have a call to action in every video of yours or every post, because we as humans are getting 10,000 marketing messages a day. And so our brain has gotten very good at filtering out majority of those marketing messages. And so if you give a call to action in majority of your posts, definitely if you give them in all your videos on social media, what will start to happen is you'll just fall on deaf ears because the brain will filter you out because you're a marketing message. What I've done, I believe very, very well on social media based on just results. Like I get a lot of people inbound DMing me asking for more information themselves. So it's why I'm telling you guys. What I do is probably 1 out of every 10 posts. It's not an exact science in full transparency, but it's right around it. 1 out of every 10 posts, I'll do hey, call me for more information. Now, if I'm asking people to register for an event, I don't call that, especially if it's a free educational event, I don't call that a hard call to action. The call to actions that bother me is, and I just don't think they're effective, is, well, at the end of the video, so for more information, make sure you call me at 416, yada, 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 yada. And the reason, as I mentioned, it doesn't work is because our brain's gotten really good at filtering these out. What's worked well for me is, look, they know I'm a real estate agent. They know I'm a real estate coach. And so people do a deep dive, especially on social media. What does that mean? They do what's actually called a digital deep dive. If they like the video, especially if it was all value driven for the viewer or listener, meaning that you didn't talk about yourself, you didn't have a call to action, it was about providing value through education or entertainment. They'll click on your profile, they'll read your bio, they'll look at other videos, and then they can make the decision to DM you or reach out to you. So it's worked really well for me. I think you should try it. Like, for your next 50 posts, only do 5 call to actions. Just spread it out, 1 out of every 10, and see what starts happening, because people are waiting for the call to action, and when you don't give it, that's like throwing a curveball in baseball. If you always throw a fastball, the batter starts to realize, okay, I know when this is coming now. But if you throw a curveball, the curveball being not doing what majority of the population in sales does, which is throw a bunch of call to actions at people, you might just stand out. I get the question all the time, how do I stand out in this industry in North America that has a little over 1.8 million professionals? Well, the way you stand out is not doing what majority of other people are doing, right? So my biggest thesis in sales is give in public and ask in private. So give away all the information for free in public, at events that you do, at talks you might do, on social media, in your emails. But then when you have somebody in private, one-on-one, then you can ask for the business. Don't ask for the business up front in public. Allow people to get the information, make a decision themselves if they want to get more information. And when they do, i.e. a DM, a private message, an email, a text message, a booking an appointment on a Google Meet or a phone call, then you can ask for the business. Was that our last question, Waylon?
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's episode 283. To get your question answered, all you got to do is go to meetjastakhar.com/podcast. That's meetjastakhar.com/podcast. You keep asking questions, and I'll do my best to answer them.